We are coming to you with urgent breaking developments out of the Middle East. And tonight, the direction of this conflict has shifted in a way that nobody in Washington or Tel Aviv was prepared to see on their screens. Iran is striking Tel Aviv, right now, as we speak. Videos are flooding in from multiple sources on the ground in Israel. We are looking at footage showing large explosions in and around the Tel Aviv metropolitan area. Fires visible across the skyline. Emergency sirens audible in the background of every clip we are receiving. Residents filming from windows, from rooftops, from streets as projectiles streak across the night sky. And here is the detail that is stopping every defense analyst we are speaking with tonight dead in their tracks. The Iron Dome is not stopping them. Israel's Iron Dome air defense system, the most battle-tested, most celebrated missile defense architecture in the world, is being penetrated tonight. Not overwhelmed in the sense of being fired at from multiple directions with conventional rockets. Penetrated, bypassed. The incoming projectiles are reaching their targets before the interception system can generate a successful kill. And the reason appears to be what Iran is firing. Iran has shifted to the Fattah missile. And if you are not familiar with that name, you need to be. Because the Fattah changes everything about this conflict and about every assumption that has been made regarding Iran's offensive capability. The Fattah, which translates from Farsi as conqueror, is Iran's domestically developed hypersonic ballistic missile. Iran unveiled it publicly in June 2023, and at the time, Western analysts treated it with a degree of skepticism. The consensus in most defense circles was that Iranian claims about the missile's performance were exaggerated, that the technology was aspirational rather than operational, that Iran was showing the world a weapon it wanted to have rather than one it could actually use effectively in combat. Tonight, that skepticism is being revised in real time. Hypersonic missiles travel at speeds exceeding Mach 5, 5 times the speed of sound. The Fattah is claimed by Iran to reach speeds of Mach 13 to Mach 15 in its terminal phase, the final portion of its flight path as it descends toward its target. At those speeds, the time available for an interceptor missile to detect, track, calculate an intercept solution, launch, and reach the incoming threat before it arrives is measured not in minutes, but in seconds. In some engagement geometries, the available response window falls below what current interceptor technology can operationally achieve. The Iron Dome was designed primarily to intercept short-range rockets and artillery shells, the kind of projectiles that Hamas and Hezbollah have used against Israeli population centers for years. It has been progressively upgraded and supplemented by the David Sling system and the Arrow ballistic missile defense system to address longer-range threats. The Arrow system in particular was specifically designed with Iranian ballistic missiles in mind. But the Arrow system, like all ballistic missile interceptors currently in service, was designed around a particular threat profile. Ballistic missiles that follow a predictable arc. Missiles whose trajectory can be calculated from the moment of launch, giving the defense system time to position an interceptor in the right place at the right time. The Fattah does not follow a predictable arc. It is a maneuvering hypersonic vehicle. It can alter its flight path during descent. It can change direction. It can target the interceptor itself if the interceptor is visible. These characteristics, speed combined with maneuverability, are precisely the combination that existing missile defense architectures were not fully designed to defeat. The videos coming in from Tel Aviv tonight are showing the consequence of that capability gap. Let us now address the question that every military analyst, every defense official, and every American and Israeli strategic planner needs to answer tonight. Where did the United States and Israel go wrong? Because mistakes were made. That is now undeniable. And understanding those mistakes is not about assigning blame in the heat of the moment. It is about understanding how a conflict that was supposed to be controlled, limited, and decisive has produced images of fires burning in Tel Aviv. The first mistake was the intelligence assessment of Iranian missile capability. For years, the dominant analytical consensus in Western defense circles treated Iranian missile development through a lens of skepticism. Iran claimed capabilities. Western analysts discounted those claims. The pattern repeated itself across multiple Iranian weapons programs, and in some cases, the skeptics were right. Iranian military technology has, on multiple occasions, proven less capable in practice than Iranian state media suggested. But the Fattah was different. The underlying physics of hypersonic glide vehicles are well understood. The engineering pathway from ballistic missiles, which Iran has been developing for decades with North Korean and Chinese assistance, to hypersonic maneuvering warheads is a known progression. The warning signs were there. The analytical community did not weight them heavily enough. The second mistake was the assumption about Iron Dome scalability. Iron Dome has an extraordinary combat record against the threat it was designed to defeat. Against conventional rockets fired from Gaza or Lebanon, its interception rates have been consistently high. That success created a psychological confidence in Israel, in Washington, and in the broader Western defense community that Israeli missile defense was effectively solved, that Iran's missiles, whatever their range, would ultimately be intercepted by the layered architecture that Israel had spent billions building. That confidence did not adequately account for what happens when the speed and maneuverability of the incoming threat exceed the design parameters of the interceptor. Iron Dome works against slow threats. David Sling works against medium-range threats following predictable trajectories. Arrow works against high-altitude ballistic re-entry vehicles. None of those systems were optimized for a maneuvering hypersonic warhead arriving at Mach 13 in its terminal phase. The gap in that architecture, the gap between what the Arrow was designed to defeat and what the Fattah actually is the gap that Iran has just driven its missiles through. The third mistake was strategic overconfidence about the tempo of Iranian escalation. The operation was planned around an assumption that the initial strikes would so severely degrade Iranian military capability, particularly its missile forces and command structure, that Iran's ability to conduct sustained, large-scale retaliation would be fundamentally compromised before that retaliation could be organized and launched. That assumption appears to have underestimated the degree to which Iran had dispersed, hardened, and pre-positioned its most capable missile systems in advance of this conflict. The Fattah batteries that are firing tonight were not destroyed in the opening strikes. They were hidden. They were waiting. Iran's military planners understood that the first hours of any conflict with the United States would involve an attempt to eliminate their strike capability. They planned for it. They protected their best weapons specifically for the moment of maximum retaliation. And that moment is now. Tel Aviv is one of the most densely populated metropolitan areas in the Middle East. Approximately 4 million people live in the greater Tel Aviv area. It is the economic center of Israel, the location of its financial institutions, its technology sector, its media, its commercial infrastructure. It is not a military target in the traditional sense. It is a civilian and economic center. And Iran is striking it tonight with its most advanced weapons. The scenes in those videos, the fires, the sirens, the scale of the damage visible even in early footage, represent something that Israelis have not experienced in this conflict until tonight. The opening hours of this war were about Israeli and American precision striking Iranian targets. The images on the world screens were of Iranian buildings burning, of Iranian air defenses failing, of Iranian infrastructure being systematically destroyed. Tonight, the images are different. Tonight, it is Tel Aviv burning. And that changes the political and psychological dimension of this conflict in ways that are difficult to overstate. For the Israeli public, the experience of watching your own major city struck by missiles that your defense systems cannot stop is a profound shock. Israel's strategic doctrine has always rested on the principle of deterrence, the understanding, maintained through decades of demonstrated military capability, that the cost of attacking Israel would always exceed any conceivable gain for the attacker. That deterrence has not been perfectly maintained tonight. For the American administration, the images from Tel Aviv create an immediate political and diplomatic problem. The operation was presented as controlled, as precise, as a situation in which American and Israeli capabilities were so overwhelming that the risks were manageable. Those images from Tel Aviv are the visual refutation of that framing. They will be on every television screen in America tonight. They will be in every newspaper tomorrow morning. And they will generate questions that the administration will find very difficult to answer with the confidence it projected when the operation began. What happens next is the question that everyone is now asking. Israel will respond to the strikes on Tel Aviv. That response will be severe. The Israeli military and political leadership cannot absorb this kind of imagery. Fires in Tel Aviv, Iron Dome breached, Fattah missiles reaching their targets, without a significant escalation of their own offensive operations. The pressure from the Israeli public and political establishment to demonstrate that this will not stand, that the strikes on Tel Aviv will carry a devastating price, will be overwhelming. But here is the strategic trap that both Israel and the United States are now navigating. Every escalation from this point forward carries greater risk than the one before it. Iran has demonstrated tonight that it has a weapon that existing Israeli missile defense cannot reliably defeat. If Iran has more Fattah missiles, and the assumption must be that it does, because a nation does not deploy its most capable weapon and exhaust its entire stock in a single salvo, then every Israeli decision about how to respond has to account for the possibility of further strikes on Tel Aviv or other major population centers. The conflict that was supposed to be about Israeli and American power projection into Iran has become tonight something more symmetrical and more dangerous than the opening hours suggested. Iran was written off. Its missiles were discounted. Its technology was underestimated. Its willingness to absorb devastating strikes and still find a way to reach Tel Aviv was not fully priced into the strategic calculations that launched this operation. The Fattah missile has just sent a message to every military planner, every defense analyst, and every government watching this conflict from a distance. Iran's missiles are not what the comfortable consensus assumed they were, and Tel Aviv is burning tonight because that assumption was wrong. This is a developing situation. We are monitoring all incoming footage and reports from the ground in Israel. We are tracking Iranian military communications and official statements. We are speaking with defense and intelligence sources on multiple continents. The night in Tel Aviv is not over, and what it looks like by morning will determine what kind of war this becomes. Stay with us. We will not leave this coverage. This has been a breaking news analysis. We will return with every confirmed development as it emerges.